Okay, and welcome to video 4 of the tutorials for layers. And what we're going to look at in this one is actually putting on our own layer, where we're actually going to paint something on a layer and create a new layer that way. So if we go to our layers palette, so I'm going to click on that, and we've got one background layer there. And what I'm going to do now is introduce you to some of the things at the bottom of the screen. And one of those is create a new layer. So I'm going to click on that, and then above the background layer we've got this layer 1. Now there is absolutely nothing on this whatsoever. It's completely blank, and you can see it looks transparent on there. It's not white black, it's just transparent. You can see the little check box in there that shows you that. And what we're going to do with this is to learn another tool now. And that tool we're going to learn is called the Elliptical Marquee tool. So it's usually second down on the tools on the left hand side, and if you hold down the mouse you will see the different selections. And I want the Elliptical Marquee tool. And this, just like the other tool that we looked at previously, has got a feather on the options bar, and very similar buttons as well. So we've got new selection, we've got add to selection, and these buttons work exactly just like the others. So if I made a selection there, I get this, and then I add to the selection, it would allow me to add other areas, and subtract again would take out areas. Let's just get rid of those. To get rid of those, we can click on select on the menu bar at the top and deselect. And also remember the mouse. So if you've got a selection, you can usually right click, and that will give you a shortcut option to do whatever you can do from that action. So I'll deselect that way. So two different ways to deselect what you've selected there. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to use this tool to create what's called a vignette. Now the feather I'm going to leave on 0. I'm going to go up to the top left hand corner. Now the first thing to do is to make sure that your picture fits the screen. So we've learned how to do that. We can double click the hand tool. Remember the double click on the zoom tool, 100%, double click the hand tool, fit to screen. So I'll go back to my elliptical marquee tool. I'm positioning the mouse. You can see the cross of the cursor, and what I'm going to do is to put it right on the top left hand corner, but instead of getting the center of the cross in the corner, I'm lining up the two parts of the cross so that they're just touching the top and the actual side. Can you see that? And then I'm going to hold down the mouse in that position, and I'm coming down to the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to touch the bottom and the side with that cross. And what that does, it just gives me the perfect ellipse shape over there that's evenly spread across the actual picture. You can see it's got a slight gap, and that's the gap of the actual cross of the cursor. It's just left that edge. Now what we're going to do with this is to create what's called a vignette, and that's like the dark effect around the edge of a picture that you often get with lenses, especially cheaper lenses, where the light is being cut out from the edge of the picture. And it's something where lens manufacturers obviously want to eliminate that, but sometimes it's nice to actually put it back on. What it does is it draws your eye into a photo. So we're going to learn how to create an artificial vignette. Now when you create a selection, I'm just going to get a paintbrush. This is not part of the lesson, so don't click on the paintbrush tool and follow this, but it will just show you that if I try and draw outside that selection, nothing happens. It protects part of the image. Anything outside this selection, I cannot do. If I come inside the selection, you can see it's painted in that area, because that area is the area selected. So what this is actually doing is protecting parts of the image. Just going to undo that, and we'll get rid of I'll click back on the tool was originally on. There we go. Okay, so this would be the stage that you're at. Now, what I want to do is to colour the area in black around the edge. Now, I can't do that because I'm protecting the edge. I've created a selection, and that will only allow me to do things within that selection. So I want the opposite. So a way of doing that, if I click on select on the menu bar at the top and click on inverse, inverse selects the opposite to what I had originally. So now you can see this dotted line, and these are called marching ants, going all the way around the edge of the picture. So basically, if I was to paint now, it would only paint outside of the area we selected originally. It would only paint in the corners and whatever. And we're now going to learn a new tool, and also we're going to change the colour. If we'll learn a new way to change the colours. Let's just say, I'm just going to click on any colour on there. Let's just say in the colour picker, we've got two colours in there, and I want to work with black and white. Well, if I look just above that, you can see it's got default foreground and background colours, which are black and white. And if I just click that little button, that would allow me to very quickly get black and white. So black for the foreground colour, which is what would, if I used a tool now, it would use the foreground colour. And if I wanted to swap to white, I can swap the two colours round that are in these two boxes, the background and the foreground colours, just by clicking this boomerang shape arrow here. Can you see that's changed it to white, and that changed it back to black? So that's a nice way, if you're working with black and white, you can click the default colour box and get those two colours straight away. So we've got black. And what I'm going to use now is the paint bucket tool. So this is the paint bucket tool. And if you click on that, and we click inside the selection, there you go, it's coloured it in black. Now, it may be that you don't actually see the paint bucket tool there. It's not always there when you first select the tools. And if it's not, if you look at the bottom of the toolbar, you've got this dotted line there. And if you click that and hold it down, if you've got any tools that are missing, they will be displayed to the right, and you can get it that way. So I've got all the tools selected, so it doesn't show me any more tools, but it would actually show you additional tools, and the paint bucket tool would appear. So that's a method to use if you can't see. And now I'm just going to deselect this. And we're going to use what's called a filter, which you haven't used up to yet. So we look at the menu bar at the top, we click on filter, and coming down to blur, and we're just going to play with the one, and that is Gaussian blur. So that's filter, blur, Gaussian blur. When we click this, basically we get a slider. I'm just going to move this across. You can move it by clicking on the title bar there and dragging it. And what you get is a radius, and that could be on anything when you open it. And you can see that if I drag this up, it's getting softer and softer. And I'm going to drag it up quite high, something like this. Okay, now you view it totally by eye, you know, just get similar effects, and click on OK. Now that's okay. It looks a little bit too much and a little bit tacky. And what we're going to do now is to change that blending mode. So if we go back to our layers, once again, we can view the layers. We've got layer 1, which is the one with our vignette on. And the blending modes we've gone over before, so where it's got the word normal, I can click on that and let's choose soft light. Now, if I just hide this, you can see the effect that it's giving. It's drawing the eye into the picture. So sometimes it's nice to do that. And also, if the effect's too much, remember we've got our layer opacity. So I can click on that, and I can drag that down slightly, and I can get any effect, any amount that I want. So I'm probably just going to do it a little bit, just like that, just so it draws the eye in. And it's not really sticking out, is it? You're not really, it's not straight in the face like it was originally. It's just subconsciously drawing your eye to the subject. Okay, so that is another layer that you can create. You can create your own layers and paint layers. And you can also do that to affect colours, and that's probably something we'll do in the next video, where I'll show you how to use colours and blend those in with your pictures. Okay, now of course remember, if you've completed something, it's a good idea you can actually right click on any of these layers and select to flatten the image. But only do that when you've completed and you're happy with the picture. And then go to File, Save As, give it a different name so you don't overwrite your original picture. Unless you really want to, you know. But there you go. There's another lesson and something that's very useful and easy to do. Follow the process, take your time, practice on your own images, and as with all the videos, practice makes perfect. Go over them, you know. And we worked a little bit on the first video where we just done the layers, and I just put layers on there and move them around a bit, which is a little bit boring because you're not actually creating anything. But what that's teaching you is how to move layers around and how to change the opacities and everything. And that is a really important process to learn. And you'll be learning much more in some of the other articles that are within this course. So at the moment we're looking at layers, but when we progress and we go on to actually making selections and masks in much more detail, we'll still be working with layers, but it will be a different title. Instead of layers, it will be masking or whatever. So don't think that is the end of layers. When we get to the end of this section, there's a lot more to learn, and I'm not going to leave you just with moving layers around or changing opacities and that. You're going to learn all the basics. Okay, so that said, that's the end of this lesson. Look forward to seeing you in the next.